Next generation carriers and guests are individual union members, speaking in a personal capacity, and they do not represent the views of the NALC, the United States Postal Service, or any other entity that is spoken on this program. If you enjoy our podcast, please subscribe to our monthly email newsletter. Go to nextgenerationcarriers.com/email. Fill in your name and email, click subscribe. Also, if you would like to get in contact with Next Generation Carriers Podcast, send us an email at nextgenerationcarriers@gmail.com. My name is John Murphy. I'm a city letter carrier out of Naples, Florida, branch 4716. And I'll pass it over to Capone.
My name is James Capone. I'm branch president, branch 764, Dedham, Massachusetts, carrier for 19 years.
Hi, my name is Christopher Sampieri, branch 18, legislative political director, and I've been a letter carrier for 8 years.
And I'm Tyler Vassar. I'm a steward in branch 9 up in Minneapolis. I also chair the coordinating committee for Build a Fighting NELC. Coordinating committees are our national leadership trying to help turn this thing into a real functioning national rank and file reform caucus. BFN's fighting, we came out of the fight for open bargaining, and we're trying to build a national movement of reform-minded NELC members who want to fight for a $30 an hour starting wage, an end to mandatory overtime, an all-career workforce, and really importantly, the right to strike. And we want to do all of this in order to transform NELC into a real democratic fighting union, bring us back to our roots, bring NELC back to the 1970s, that sort of thing, that fighting spirit.
So everyone, thanks for tuning in today. So there's a subject that kind of came up recently. Before I get into the history a little bit, it's not history, it only started a couple months ago. The coordinating committee of Build a Fighting NALC recently endorsed this campaign called CCA Summer. CCA PTF Summer sounds like a mouthful. Nothing against PTFs, we do love you as well, but it's just CCA Summer just sounds nicer. What is it? How did it come about? What are some of the goals of it? We're going to talk about that tonight with Tyler Vassar. Also with us too, who'll be coming in later, will be Dennis and Josh, who've been working with me here in Massachusetts on Amazon Sundays. It's something that honestly, it's a really fun and rewarding thing to do. If you want to be an activist, if you want to reach out to the next generation of carriers, see that? Then yeah, that's the whole point. So the next generation, we got to reach out to them, and Amazon Sunday is a great way to reach out to the next generation. All right, that's 2 plugs. That's good enough. All right, Tyler, Amazon Sunday. What do you think about it? What are we doing? What's the plan?
Yeah, so the CCA Summer, the flyers say CCA Summer and in parentheses, and PTFs too, just so you know, we don't forget about them. In Minneapolis, we've been hiring straight to PTFs since I think 2023 because we, go figure, we couldn't hire anyone in a non-career position and with the wages so low. And so we have nothing but PTFs, at least in the city. But CCA Summers, like you said, we want to take what we've seen from around the country into a national campaign for BFN as a way for NELC and BFN members to get connected with CCAs and PTFs on Amazon Sundays, talk about what the reform movement is fighting for in the union, what our vision for the union is, and really importantly, to share helpful information and give support to CCAs and PTFs, help them navigate being new at the post office, and ultimately encourage them to get active in the union and join the reform movement in NELC. We have 2, I know we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but we have 2 flyers that were coming out. We have a whole toolkit I'm going to talk about in a second, but 2 flyers. One is information about tips and ideas of how to beat the heat. People might have seen that one. The other one is a double-sided one. One has a few basic know your rights points that you all in Massachusetts have been using. And on the flip side of that flyer, to know your rights, and on the flip side, it says a little bit about BFN, what we are, what our vision for transforming NELC back into a democratic fighting union is, and we want to use these to help facilitate a conversation with our coworkers, build those connections, give basic information, help people navigate being new at the post office, and really show our union brothers and sisters that we have their back and we want to get them active in the union.
That's the whole thing right there, folks. How did it get started for us in Massachusetts? People have been asking us about it. Thought this would be like, we do a few things and no one would really talk about it. But it really started with the Vote No campaign for us in Massachusetts. I'm sure a lot of us, we talked to our coworkers in the office. A lot of us got the Vote No resolutions passed in our own union meetings, which is good. But one thing that I noticed, and a lot of us did with the Massachusetts branch of Build a Fighting NALC was like, the new people don't know anything. They don't know, they've never been for a lot of them, they've never been in a union before. They don't know what's going on. And I'm like, well, what's the best way to reach a lot of them besides the ones in our office? And I'm like, well, maybe we could just go on Amazon, go down to Amazon Sundays and start talking to people. People really had no idea what was in the contract, what was in this TA, the 1.3% and everything. And when we went down there, it started with a few people. I want to give props to my good buddy there, Ryan Miller, and Kelly Sullivan from Branch 34. We were there in the early. It was, I want to say it was like, really cold. I think it was like December, January in Massachusetts. For all us in the north, that's a cold time. You can't feel your hands, and you're like, "Hi, would you like 1.3%?" And a lot of the CCAs were really upset about what was going on with everything. They wanted more than just 1.3%. That started a conversation, and it was going well. A lot of basic questions like, "How do I actually vote? I don't know this. When is the vote? What? I never heard about one. No one tells me anything. I'm new." And that was a lot of people who didn't know anything about it. So once you tell people what was in it, it was just anger. And it's like, who's the person that negotiated this contract? That's another person. Brian Renfro, for those of you who don't know, is the one that negotiated it. So they got to learn his name and what was going on. And then we talked about what we were calling for, which was a Tyler said, $30 an hour. An all-career workforce, cutting down 13 and a half years down to 6 years for top pay. UPS has 4. Things that people wanted to know. And and you could see the excitement in the CCAs like, wow, that's great. Like, now some people thought, are we voting on that? And I'm like, slow down. I like the energy. We're getting there. But that's the idea, is that we have to educate people on what we're fighting for. And then we tell them it's a process to get there. And that's how it started. And then, we had then the rally in Boston. All of us worked on the rally here in Boston, and that kind of took up our time, so we kind of stopped doing it. And then we know how the TA got jammed down our throat. We were like, let's get back out there. Let's go back and start talking to the CCAs again and the PTFs. Because, one thing we noticed too that I never sat well with me was the basic things of people were telling me that some bad things were going on at work. They were getting bullied by a boss. And I'm like, have you talked to your steward? And someone's like, I don't know who my steward is. And I go, well, how long have you been at the office? He goes, like 4 or 5 months. I'm like, they never talked to you? He goes, no. And they were at a big office. I'm not naming the office. It was a big office, and they should know. So all these things, and I'm like, and then on one Sunday, the last one we did, people were leaving. And I'm like, why are you all leaving? It's like, oh, there's no work for us. We have to go home. I'm like, well, you're getting your 2 hours of pay? And they're like, what 2 hours of pay? No one told them that if you get sent home, you're owed 2 hours. And if you're in a bigger office, it's 4. So we're like, we need to start telling people about their rights. So we told everybody, and we had to Google it quick. And I was like writing things down on a piece of paper, like, this is in the contract. This is how you're going to do it. Punch in and punch out, and then tell your steward. Who's my steward? Oh God. So and then who's your president? Like I go, what local are you in? I don't know. We had a lot of work to do. So, and we wanted to just help them get their money. So when we went back recently, people remembered us. Like, hey, you're the guys that got us money. That works. The CCs remember, if you put money in someone's pocket, they're going to think highly of you. And that's what we've been going on. So when we went back to Brockton, up here in Massachusetts, a pretty big hub, people remembered us for helping them put money. So we include knowing your rights on the job, that you're not on call, that you have the right, if you're sent home, you're 2 hours of pay. If, and all things about your rights, and also our platform, so we could talk to new people. And we did this in Norwood. And slowly but surely, that's how we got Dennis, Josh, who's here, Derek came along, and Zach Hogan, president from 742 when Norwood came out, because they think it's important that the CCAs get an education and know that BFN is fighting for a living wage, something that should have happened last contract. We did now, it's a commitment what we're doing. I'm a psycho, and I go every 2 weeks to all the hubs in Massachusetts. That's just me. My wife's really, really excited that I'm doing this, but the point is that you don't have to go that hard, but it's cooler if you did. But, go out there and do it. It really is. And on just a personal level, it is a rewarding thing. I know it sounds hokey and weird, but helping people, the whole reason why I think we get involved in the labor movement is that we want to help our fellow letter carrier. Corey Walton says it best. You do have to have a love for the city letter carrier craft. If you really have that in you, and you really do care about your fellow worker, you'll like this. It's good. So, one thing I just want to do, and I could be specific, and this could take 10 hours, but I'm just being broad. We can talk about more things later. There's a Q&A at the end for those of you in the audience who are here with us. These are the 9 things that tell people to do. 1, and I have one with me. flyer and a clipboard right here. So the flyer is important. This is what you're going to hand to them. It gives them information and also has contact information in case there's something wrong. You do that. One, bring coffee and munchkins, or donut holes as you call them outside of New England, which is a weird thing, but munchkins here in Massachusetts. Bring those. People like those. Plus you're going to be hungry too. You can take a couple. It's fine. Dennis brings his dog. I think it's always bring a dog. All right. That's it. I'm just saying, I like his dog. And one important thing too, and I tape this on the back if you can see it on the Zoom, but this is a note. This is the employee rights by the NLRB. So legally speaking, as employees, only us. We can't have, if you have a friend who's in the carpenters union, electrician, they can't do this, but we can. And bring your ID with you. That's nothing on the checklist. You can be in the parking lot as they're coming in, as you see a CCA walking into work, you can hand them a flyer and let them know what's going on and talk to them as they're walking in. You can walk with them to the door if you want. But when they go through that door, you have to stop. You can't go into the workplace, only the parking lot. You can talk to them when they're not punched in. Tell them about their rights. Tell them about what's going on. Hand them a munchkin or two, and that's it. That way they know anything. And plus, give them, like I said, I put my phone number on it too in case they want to text me later on with any questions. And so it's a good way to have an avenue there. So make sure you bring it up there. We haven't been hassled by any manager at all. So like I said, we have the legal right to be there. It's fine. That comes up a lot. Bring a sign-up sheet. That's a big thing. That way, if they like it, they can sign their name up. You can contact them after, text them after, whatever. Also, try to bring one coworker. You don't want to be the lone weirdo, like if you have such a great movement, you couldn't find one person, but try to bring one other coworker with you. And also wear your union shirt so it looks like it. And just identify, hi, I'm Chris. I'm a letter carrier too. That helps. Like, oh, okay, you're not just some rando guy stalking me in there. So those are the things. And honestly, it'll be a bit weird at first talking to people cold. That's normal. That's going to happen because, but think of a good opening line. You can, you'll figure it out on your own. And it's okay if you stumble. I was just like, hey, how's it going? You want a flyer? That's not a great opening. But over time, you'll get into your rhythm of it. So that's mostly how it started. And most importantly, too, post it on social media. That's important. That's how people know you're doing stuff. That's how Tyler saw us do it. That's how other people are doing it. People have been messaging us that they want to do this where they are, which is why the CCA Summer came into it being a thing. But post it. People want to see it. And really, where did I get it from? I saw TDU doing it. Teams for a Democratic Union. All these reform groups did this stuff. I'm just really happy that other people, and I've been hearing other people have been doing it too, which is great. So really, people, if you're doing it, post it on social media. It looks really good. Like I said, it's inspiring. So that's my experience of how it came into being. So I think I've talked enough.
On that, I think lots of NELC members have, been discussing for a while how can we better support CCAs and PTFs? And we essentially have a second-class tier of workers within our union. After that 2013 contract, when the CCAs were first implemented, you have workers who are doing the same work for less money, are generally treated pretty bad by management, are treated as expendable. And oftentimes, I know some unions do a really good job of this. I know a lot of stewards do a good job of, I try to introduce myself to every PTF that comes in, make sure that they have resources. My station is pretty tight knit and we try to help them out. But even so, this is a second class tier of worker that is paid less and treated as expendable and is generally doesn't feel a whole lot of connection to the workplace. There's a reason why the turnover rate is so high. And so people like Corey Walton has talked about this for a long time on From 8 Arbitration. Morris down in Fort Worth has been talking about how we can better support CCAs for a long time and doing that work as well. But the idea for making it a real national campaign came out, about a month ago, whenever that was, a month and a half ago. When I saw that photo, Chris, that you posted, I immediately reached out to you. We got on the phone. I think it was a Sunday. We got on the phone first thing Monday morning, and I just thought, man, this is a fantastic idea. We should make this a national campaign. And so, I brought it up to the coordinating. We got you on the phone. Brought it up to the coordinating committee. Wrote up a proposal. We voted down last Sunday's July 22nd BFN coordinating committee meeting to really take part in this and help turn it into a real national campaign. So that's how we got on board with all this.
Also, I want to put Dennis and Josh in too. It's good. Like I said, having one other person's good, but like we're a gang of 6 now. We roll deep. Okay. That is us. We got a crew with us now, which is great because if you have a lot of people there, it's like people, if I'm seeing a group of people wearing union stuff, I'm like, all right, maybe they got something to say. And once you build a presence up, people like, it's like one guy, first name, Vincent. He's like, oh, it's the BFN people. How you doing? And like, he came up, how's it go? He remembered us. It's friendly. You build it. And like I said, even though he works at a different office, they are happy to see us. It's probably not the Munchkin. I mean, the Munchkins help, but like, we really do. It's about building that relationship up. Because, and then some people are saying like, what's up with the next contract? When are we voting this person out of office? Like people do want to know that. And you're going to be the people that come for the answers, because I think there's a lot of people who want change, especially like I said, the most exploited, worse off people out there. I mean, that CCA time doesn't count. I lost 3.5 years of CCA time that now I'm gonna have to work 17 years till I get top pay. If you got hired at PTF, that's good, but there's so much out there that needs to get changed.
And it also shows a great purpose where, you may have certain people who are against this type of thing, but it is fitting a missing piece where the NELC is missing out on getting the information to the CCAs. And the CCAs have to get to the meetings to get the information, but how can they get to the meetings if they don't know their rep? How are they going to get the information? And you guys are fitting into a position where you're getting them connected to the union and not opposing the union, as some people might feel. This is a group that's trying to oppose the union.
Right?
It's actually bringing these new people into it and teaching them their rights and how to get in contact with their branch presidents, to go to the meetings, to learn to be more effective members.
That's exactly right, Capone. I think that's the thing, is like, where BFN is not trying to create a separate union or a separate organization. We are a caucus within the union that are of like-minded individuals that want to get organized around a set of ideas, around a program that we think the union should take up. And, I'm on the executive board for Branch 9. I'm the editor of our newspaper, the Branch 9 News. Let me know if you want me to send you copies when we come out. We can get your branch on the list. But it's we got lots of good articles and stuff in there. But our branch president had mentioned something about, hey, should we get the branch itself to host this and help plug in branch members who want to be a part of this as well. And so I'd encourage people, if you're a branch president yourself, or on the e-board, or a steward, or you have a friendly leadership that wants to take this on, I see no reason why this shouldn't be a branch initiative as well and take part in this campaign.
Yeah, when I read off the platform, when we had Brian Renfro on, when I read the platform of BFN, he agreed to everything. He's like, $30 is too low. Like, he said that. So, like, obviously, I could use his words. Like, Brian Renfro said we should get more than $30 an hour. But these, like, what is going to get, like, why, like, CCAs, they don't come because they're going to go, wow, the union that gets me $19.33 an hour wants me to do something? Forget that. Oh, the contract I voted against, we got it anyway. Like, that was a blow to a lot of people's morale. But, that's why it's more important now than ever to talk about $30 an hour, getting their career time down. Those are the things that inspire people.
Well, and also shows that, look, I don't think Renfro or anybody wants us to make less than $30 an hour. I don't think they're going, you know what, I'm fine with this. They want more, but they need the backing. They need the people. They need the post office to realize that this union is serious to be able to get that stuff. To do that, you need the soldiers. To get the soldiers, you need to actually go out and talk to them. And it's building the whole NELC up in, we're giving you more people. We're giving you more soldiers under this point that we all want. We all want to get paid more. I can't see any branch president that doesn't care their CCAs aren't getting paid. Even surprisingly, management, a lot of lower level management, think it's ridiculous how much CCAs are getting paid. And the lower steps. It's getting everybody in on the fight and getting them and reaching out to them. It's not opposition because we all want the same damn thing. We're just bringing people in to get involved in it.
Yeah. Josh and Dennis, I know you guys have been quiet. I've been yapping a lot, but any thoughts on this?
Yeah, Josh, Branch 55. That's one of the things that is beautiful about this. It's the reach out process. I know I was there when Amazon Sundays first started in Worcester, which is Branch 12, and there was no one there. So I know for me, I always used to make it exciting and always talk to people and reach out to all people, because we were a hub that brought in multiple different places because we were a big office. And so I've just used that kind of experience to reach out and talk to a CCA on a personal level, and give out your personal experience, give out like your locals, because I'm from now a smaller local compared to a big local, which was Branch 12, and just letting them know, hey, we've all been there. And that's the key. Like Capone said, you got to get your hooks into these guys, these young guys, and say, hey, if you come to the union meetings, you can start empowering your local. In order to change national or anything, or give national the strength, it starts at the local, then you can hit the regional. From regional, then you can change national. And that's where it all begins. It begins on the home front. And BFN Mass, we're trying to make that New England, and
we are.
It starts with expanding slowly out of central and eastern Massachusetts, down the coast to Rhode Island, up the coast to New Hampshire. But we got to start local, and we got to start getting people to come not only together, but also come together at their branch meetings, which is another thing that is good, that some branches are now adopting Zoom, which is huge. I talk to so many people that have kids, or they're running around here or there. It's hard for some of the younger generations to get everything together, especially where they have to work the multiple hours to make ends meet. So if you can even hook them in with something simple as Zoom, so they can hear, they can listen, they can, understand and process, and then be able to execute the contract and know their rights, it's huge.
Josh is right. I mean, I'm in a smaller branch now, so it's easy for me to see each CCA as they come in the building as a branch president. I've been in a bigger branch where you don't see a branch president, but that steward should be reaching out. You should know, honestly, I've always said your steward should be the loudest person in the room all the time, even if it's just talking. Believe me, my coworkers will tell you I talk to myself most of the morning. Everybody knows who the hell I am. But I came from a rep, Bobby DeMahon, who everybody knew who Bobby was in the office. You know who your rep is. When I came to Denham, it was Frank Medico. He was the loudest person in the room. Everybody knows Frank. Stewards aren't doing that, and carriers aren't seeing them, and CCAs are starting late, but they should be still there with some carriers that are also informing them who their rep is. You have that regular that gets out of the office later than everybody else when the CCAs are coming in. Start talking to them and going, oh, yeah, by the way, Capone's your rep, just so you know. And we're missing out on these guys and then not getting them to the meetings. And Josh is right. The change comes from the bottom. Good ideas get built upon as it goes up, and it affects the change of the whole union, which should be the goal of everybody, is new, bright, good ideas working. And leaving out a whole class of people that might have some good ideas is asinine.
I am a member of BFN. I'm in Brighton, Massachusetts. I've been a letter carrier for about, it'll be 2 years in October. I didn't have quite the support network when I first started. Have an awesome shop steward, but got shipped off within 4 months of making regular. Within 4 months of hire, I was shipped off regular to it. The station was very dysfunctional. I learned a lot there about how terrible it can actually be in a bad station. So when I made it back to where I am now in Braintree, which is amazing, I decided I wanted to help the new guys not go through what I went through, and catch them and let them know what's up and what's right, what's not right, and just make them feel supported and not on that island that they're on.
What has your experience been when you interact with CCAs and PTFs, when you go up to them on a random Sunday? What has your experience been? Have you felt empowered, or do you feel kind of like this was a waste of time?
Not a waste of time. I feel good, because I think the best thing you can see is when you see they kind of relax, or the wheels start turning and they realize that, they aren't crazy. They do have a support network behind them, and maybe they've been kind of led down the wrong road by, their supervisor.
Yeah, that's really, and there are some people who are just not happy campers, and they're probably just nothing against people being home over on Amazon Sunday, and we've all been there, but some people just, and that's a minority, really. And like with that thing, once you see about like, hey, we're fighting for $30 an hour, or like, we should get more than a 1.3% raise. You're like, yeah, people are like, yeah, you're like, no one's ever talked about the finances. No one's talked about the union as a vehicle for change. It's not like the union is just some third party to these people. But once you say, like, and I will say it when they go, are you with the union? I'm like, yeah, we all are the union. The union isn't the president, isn't Brian Renfro. The union isn't your NBA. The union isn't your steward. I mean, we are the union. That's the idea. And once you realize, it's like, and I'm like, tell people, once we start contract negotiations in February, I'm going to be calling you to say like, hey, we're going to be having a rally in Boston. That's what we're going to be organizing in Massachusetts. Every city should be organizing a rally. We're not doing this in defiance of the union, because we are the union. We want our union to be watch this, Tyler, a fighting union. Like, that's the whole point. Like, that's what, like, I mean, why do you think that, like, everyone works at UPS? Because the Teamsters fought. That's what they did. UAW fought, SAG-AFTRA fought, and they got good gains. My wife's in SAG-AFTRA. Like, they have good wages and benefits because they actually push the limits. The idea is that, rallies have been discouraged for how long? I mean, the reason why and I'll use Capone's point once again, in Massachusetts, if you didn't want to go to college, the two ways you would make it was you got a job working for the MBTA, the transit system, which is a state union job, or you work for the post office. Those are your two tickets to a good, comfortable middle-class life. And now the MBTA, a bus driver makes $30 an hour to start. We're making $19.33 to deliver the mail. I mean, and non-career time, no TSP contributions. I've lost out on 3.5 years of TSP contributions. That's 3.5 more years I'm going to have to work. So, all right, we got a lot to do.
So I'm sold, right? So far in 2025, 2 letter carriers have died, right? Jacob Taylor in Dallas, Texas, and Dan Workman in Grand Junction, Colorado have died from the heat. As a brand new CCA or a PTF, and I'm listening to this podcast, and I'm like, I wish I had more knowledge, right? I'm working 60 hours a week. I'm working 7 days a week. I cannot go to the union meetings, and no information is coming my way. It's very one-way information-wise. I wish there was more people willing to volunteer their time and do outreach to grow the union. Because BFN, Build a Fighting NELC, none of us are paid. We're all volunteers. We're taking time out of our personal lives. We're sacrificing our relationships. I know me and Tyler have talked about this. Our partners are kind of pissed at how much we do for volunteer work. So the CCAs listening, the PTFs out there, they're like, wow, like this is a great idea. Like it would be great if a union rep came to our Sunday. Like on Sundays right now, it's just the boss. The boss has the megaphone and there's no union rep. They're just telling us we don't get breaks, beat the heat, run as fast as you can, or there's no packages, just stay home. You're in the parking lot, go home. So on the flip side, if you're a city carrier and you actually want to get engaged and actually save people's lives, like I just said, 2 people have died.
4.
And 2 confirmed
now.
So far.
Okay.
And if we're listening to this and people want to get engaged and want to learn how to do this, right? The big question is, how do you do this? And under the NLRA, we have the legal right to take action with one or more coworkers to improve our working conditions. And under the NLRA, we could solicit for a better union during before work, after work, and during break times. So if you're listening and you want to get involved with this, if you want to go and organize a parking lot rally, if you want to do outreach, how would someone plug in to BFN? How would someone get involved with this movement? Is it under NALC.org, or do we contact our steward? Tyler, can you help the folks out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would encourage everyone to go to fightingnalc.com. You can sign up. We have lots of material on there. We have statements of the big things happen in society in the union. We want to make a statement, plant a flag, and say this is where we stand on this, and this is how we think we need to organize around this. We also have lots of material and information on there, including CCA Summer toolkit, which I'll get into in a second, that has all this stuff that Chris has mentioned, that John has mentioned, in one place for you to be able to get all this materials. But I really encourage CCAs and PTFs themselves, like, you don't need to sit around and wait for someone to come and flyer you at your station. You can print this stuff out and do it yourself. But really, any NELC member can do a CCA Summer Canvas at an Amazon Sunday hub in their area. You don't need to wait. Already have an existing BFN chapter, although that's a plus. Like Chris said, we encourage people, find one other person. Can you find one other person to go out with you? Hey, can you find 5 other people like Chris?
Hey.
You got people coming out of your ears, and in branch 9, for example, we have enough people who are interested in it that we're going to try to hit all the major hubs in one day, at least twice once in July, once in August, at least, because I think there's 3 hubs on Sundays, including the central hub, which is based out of my post office, the main post office in downtown. But part of the point of CCA Summer is to help NELC members find other reform-minded members in their area to take part in collective activity together. So not only, so you can use this not only to get good information out and help out your fellow coworker, but also to do collective action together with other, like-minded, reform-minded NELC members. And it could be the basis for a lot of chapters that already exist to strengthen their chapters. Places where there are only 1 or 2 people right now to find that 3rd or 4th person. And it could also be the basis for places where chapters don't yet exist to be able to build one, on top of all the other reasons why it's good. And so the CCA Summer Toolkit, a few things here. We have the 2 flyers that I mentioned, the one Beat the Heat, and then the one that has Know Your Rights and a blurb about BFN. We're going to have a script on there as well to help you. Some people, if you've never done this before, you go, my God, what do I say to someone? Once you get that conversation going, hey, it's just like your case talking to your casemate, and we also will have the National Labor Relations Act legal information, just to we have the legal right to do union activity. It also has the proposal that was passed at the BFN Coordinating Committee meeting that if people are interested in reading the exact language, and this podcast interview, it's all going to be there in that toolkit. We also just want to, Chris mentioned this about posting a picture online. I want to talk about how do you report a CCA Summer shift. Going to an Amazon Sunday with other NELC and BFN members, with our flyers, having conversations is considered a shift. In order for the BFN Coordinating Committee to be able to track the progress of CCA Summer and help support chapters and members and NELC members who are taking part in this, we're asking people to share a report with us after every CCA Summer shift. And there's 3 things that you can do. One is take a picture with yourself and the other BFN members or NELC members that you're canvassing with. Show us in action. Hold up those flyers. Let people know. You can show people why you're there. 2 is write a 3 or 4 sentence report. Very simple. Where are you? How did the shift went? Any successes? Any lessons? Any difficulties that things that you learned? And 3, email the photo and the report to buildafightingnelc@gmail.com. An email will be going out over our email list of over 3,000 with all this information tomorrow, and we'll make sure that people get this stuff. But we really want people to take part in this and send in that report so that we can help track this, so that we can follow up with you and help you out if you have questions or if you learn something really, really helpful that would help other folks who are trying to take part in this.
And if I could just piggyback too, it's like say you're in Southern Vermont, I mentioned earlier I'm a psycho for this stuff. So I will if you got 2 people and you just did one and you want hey, can I get, could we get a little help? Maybe someone we want to do one, but we're kind of nervous. And I'll go, like I said, if you're in New England, Dennis, if you're in New England, you're in luck. You got us, we got the crew is 6, the gang of 6. But we'll be, like I said, we'll help you. Like I said, it's nerve-wracking. Starting off is the hardest thing to do because you're there's nothing when you're sitting in a parking lot, sitting around, because you have to be you want to be about 15 minutes, 20 minutes early. That way you can set up shop and everything. And because you want to get people as they're coming in. So when you're standing there and you're you see your first person, you get okay, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? And that's it. But it's okay. You're going to learn. And it's like I said, anytime it's like tagging us in for help. We'll be there. We love doing this stuff. You will like doing it too, trust me. So yeah, so just please reach out to the National. They'll hook us up. And we just know like I said, we just want to know so we can help. That's why we're there.
One thing, Chris, really quick on that I forgot to mention is, like I said, if you have a chapter already, if you're just starting one, or if you haven't started at all, this can be a really good basis to build that core of BFN. What we found is that the best way to build a chapter is build a core. You start with one person, yourself mostly, can you find a second person? From there, can you find a third and a fourth person? Discuss our ideas, discuss the ideas of trying to transform the union, and go to our website, fightingnalc.com. We have all material here that can help you. There's a tab that has how to build BFN materials. You click on that, it brings you to how to start a chapter document that goes into all of this stuff that we wrote after when we were first starting, last spring and into the summer, into the fall. We got all sorts of questions and we tried to jot down all the questions we got about like, how do I start? What does it mean? What does it look like? What are lessons from other places? And we put that into one document that has a bit about the history of BFN, where we came from, but also has information about how to start that chapter, because we want BFN chapters across the country in order to help strengthen the branches across the country and rebuild a fighting labor movement, rebuild a fighting NALC. And so I just want to highlight that. You go to our website if you're interested in doing more after the CCA Summer. Go to the how to build BFN materials tab and find that how to start a chapter document and read that. Discuss that with that one or two or three other people that you found.
Tyler, quick question. We're talking about building and fighting NALC reform movement and BFN chapters. Do you have to be a paying member? Is this does this cost anything to be an activist, to go and actually outreach to people? Does this require a membership or a test or a title, or can just anyone do this?
At the moment, anyone can do this. We don't have, it doesn't cost anything at the moment. Other reform caucuses, whether it's the Teamsters for Democratic Union or the UAWD, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, but they have had dues structures as a way, because we don't take any money from rich people or foundations or anything. How we've raised money for, we had the public meeting at the National Convention last year. We had to pay for that room, or, paying for our website. At the moment, we fundraise on a case-by-case basis. But in the future, we are looking into, out of CCA Summer, I'm going to talk about a little bit towards the end. We're hoping to get out of this as we shore up our structures and really consolidate on the gains that we've made over the last year and a half. We're looking into how we can better make those connections between the coordinating committee and the chapters, how we can better build the structures that are necessary to build this into a real national reform caucus. And honestly, dues could be a part of that. I think it would be a good thing, because then we are the ones funding our organization. At the moment, that's not the case. At the moment, I would encourage people, if you're interested, to just participate in CCA Summer on a volunteer basis. Read that how to start a chapter document and reach out to us if you want someone from the coordinating committee. You're not on your own. Me or John or Chris or someone will get you on the phone and talk you through how to get those first steps started. That's what that looks like so far.
All right, cool. So the only cost is to print the material out or buy coffee and donuts. So I would advise, if anyone's actually interested in actually taking that first step, the first step is always the hardest. Yes. Always. That one-on-one conversation, or even not even having that conversation yet, just trying to hand a flyer to a complete stranger is the hardest thing. It's the first step. And once you get past that, you start running. And I want to say, if you're listening to this and you're in Florida, reach out to me, johnmurphysays@gmail.com or nextgenerationcarriers@gmail.com. If you actually want to start organizing, because we all know the contract's in 9 months. And does anyone honestly expect us to get more than 1.3% on the next contract raise? We all know that that's what's going to happen. And how many people are we going to lose? This service continues to go down the drain. And if you're like me, I have 30 years left. And I need to make sure this service is staying. So if you're listening to this and you're like, all right, I want to step up. I can't go to union meetings. I can't do this because I have a second job or I have to do family care. I advise, if you have an office break, that 10-minute office break, print out material for know your rights. And get together with your CCAs in your office and the PTFs during your 10-minute office break and just be like, yo, I brought coffee and donuts. Like, here's material. We need to stick together. We need to stick together. And you guys have rights. As we mentioned earlier on this, it's one of the biggest things is you show up on a Sunday, you have no union rep there. And if you show up and your boss is telling you to go home because there's no parcels, like, oh, the Amazon truck's late. Everyone go home. We'll just deliver them tomorrow. And the manager doesn't allow you to clock in. You're just going to be like, all right, cool, whatever. And you're not going to try to rock the boat because you actually think the manager's right. And you don't want to go to your steward and be like, oh, well, yesterday this happened. But you might have one or two coworkers. But we need to be building a fighting NALC where every CCA feels empowered. where every CCA, when they walk in, they know they're a union member. And every union experiences this. Any union rep that's inside the NELC, that's inside the UAW, that's inside the AFL-CIO, they know it. It's a fact. You have within 120 days or around there to get a new union member roped into being an activist. The longer you wait to engage with the union member, the more likely they'll be totally apathetic. And once they become apathetic, it's nearly impossible to re-energize them. And we saw that with the Vote No contract campaign. This was a historic vote no because we mobilized. The rank and file got together. We were all volunteers. We were not paid. We did this on our own time. We went out there and talked to our coworkers one-on-one. And as Tyler's seen at the convention, there's a lot of new faces there. There's a lot of new everything, a lot of new avenues we're going down. So this is uncharted. So if you're listening to this and you're afraid, like, we've been there. Tyler went to the convention and he was on the mic for the first time. I was at the convention. It was my first convention. I organized a Vote No rally in Naples, Florida. It was my first time organizing a rally with my coworkers. So if you're listening to this and you're still on the sidelines, like, I don't know, I understand. I was there. And if you're listening and you do have an office break, please use that. We are having city letter carriers die because they do not feel empowered to take comfort stops because they know they are going to get harassed. And we need to build a union where the bosses are actually hesitant to harass us. Because right now they get a slap on the wrist and they might get moved to another station. But if we're all educated on the contract and we're all educated as a collective, we could change our union into a fighting union. And we are one of the most powerful unions. We have a big war chest.
Not only are you teaching these new CCAs their rights, I guarantee you guys run into some that weren't signed up for the union. Have you guys been able to help any of them sign up to the union? Have you run across any that are not in the union?
For me personally, that hasn't happened to me yet. There's some people who go like, I don't know if I'm in the union. That happens. Like, that's like, it's really, some people they have been not informed of anything, or like, I'm on, like, someone thought I'm on probation, so I'm not in the union. I haven't made my 90, but like, you are you have union, and I had to explain, well, you don't get union protect, you're at will for 90 days. So I had a couple people think that.
If you start empowering your members, the rank and file, they would feel empowered to stay within the union. So
exactly.
Yeah, and one thing
I think, like, grabbing people while they're new and winning them over. I know this point's been made, but I think we should highlight it again. Grabbing people while they're new, getting them while they're brand new. Like John said, 120 days. You got a bit of time to really show them this is what it means to be a union worker. This isn't just a random title or something that you pay dues to and you don't really know what it is. This is a real organization that is ours. Unions are the only organizations that working class people have that is fully ours, at least at the moment. Grabbing people while they're new, winning them over to being conscious union members is one of the many goals of the CCA Summer. As a steward, like I said, and I know a lot of stewards do this, but it doesn't happen everywhere, as you've run into people who say, I don't even know who my steward is. Winning someone a grievance, winning them a 4-hour guarantee or 2-hour guarantee, depending on your station, winning them, not letting them get harassed by management, sticking up for them and telling them their rights, supporting them, doing things like CCA Summer and just letting them know that there are people in their union that have their back. They will remember that. How many of you, I remember being brand new and having a fellow CCA at the time I was a CCA, having a fellow CCA or having even a career carrier coworker help me with something. They gave me a tip, or they helped me out on a day that I was busted. I mean, I'm sure every one of us has broken down in the van at least one time when we were brand new in Minnesota. It gets cold, okay? I remember those people, and those people hold a special place in my heart. So if we can win people over to being conscious union members through the CCA Summer, those of us who are stewards, by winning them grievances and having their back, giving them the basic know your rights material, that is someone that when times get tough, when things are really hard, when you want to mobilize them out to a meeting to win a resolution or whatever it is, they're much more likely to get active. They're much more likely to have your back, just like you had theirs. Just last things about what are we hoping to get out of this?
Yes,
This has been woven throughout. Just what are we hoping to get out of this? We already talked about. It's good just for the sake of it, getting support to CCAs and PTFs, letting them know that they have someone they can turn to know their basic rights, to be able to assert themselves, to be able to, defend themselves and their coworkers, because Amazon Sundays are the Wild West. I remember doing an Amazon Sunday and just getting the shit beaten out of me. And then coming on Monday morning and things are messed up and regulars being all mad about it. And I said, I don't even know where to begin with you. I was out till 9 o'clock, whatever. So the more that we can give people support, the better that we can, function as a union. This is also from a BFN perspective, giving chapters a collective action to take part in that will give BFN members experience canvassing, talking to our coworkers about what BFN stands for, what are we trying to do. And then also, this is really important, it will allow the coordinating committee to understand the strength and capacity of various chapters around the country. What stage is a chapter in? Does it have a core? Have they, do they want to become an official chapter? Do they want someone from the coordinating committee to reach out to them and help them walk through that process? That's all of that is really important. We want people to do at least 2 CCA summer canvasses, at least. If you've got a ton of people and you're ready to go, I know in Massachusetts they do every other week, but we're asking, can you do 1 in July, 1 in August? The coordinating committee set a task for itself this summer of consolidating, like I said, the gains that we've made over the past year and a half. We were in an all-out sprint. Everyone here knows it. From the open bargaining campaign to the national convention, to the Vote No campaign, to the March 23rd rallies. We led that stuff. BFN members did. Activist NELC members pushed our union into the fight. But we can't just run from campaign to campaign to campaign. We had to take a little bit of a breather. But now people are ready to go. That's the point of the CCA Summer. We want to shore up our structures, develop those lines of communication between the coordinating committee and the chapter organizers and individuals who are interested in getting involved. One part of it is the CCA Summer. The other part of it, the best thing that everyone here can do and everyone listening, is to take part in our study group. Derek and Mara in Philly, Derek in Boston, already did one on an old pamphlet about organizing in the steel industry. And this isn't just for history's sake. I like history, but this is to be able to draw lessons out of the labor movement's own history. The next one that's coming up is on July 13th. We sent out one email already. There's going to be information on fightingnelc.com, but on Undelivered. It's the history of the 1970 strike, the greatest event in our union's history. The event that turned this job into a good paying job. Dennis has got it too. That's good to see. We're going to be reading chapters 1 through 4 on July 13th. We're going to be discussing it. There's an article that's on the website as well that it will all be in a tab that people can find. But we need to give BFN, we need to give NELC members a better understanding of our history of our union, of organizing inside and outside of the post office so that we can combine collective activity, collective study and education with action on the ground whenever we can take part in national initiatives. And so I really want to encourage people to do both these things, CCA Summer and participate in our study group. We can come out of this summer in a much stronger position. The amount of times that I was raising something and somebody in a general membership meeting and, someone got up and said, well, we've never done this before. And I was able to say, well, actually, and I was able to reference something from Undelivered, something from our own union's history. And that's what we're trying to do in BFN. We're trying to bring our union back to the roots of the 1970s that made it what it is. I would love for BFN not to have to exist. I'm already a steward, the editor, on the executive board. If we get the union to a point where it is a fighting union, BFN doesn't need to exist anymore. We're not at that point. That's why we exist, because we want to transform our union, the union that we are building every single day and that we want to build with CCA Summer and all the other initiatives and all the fun stuff to come, fighting for the right to strike and the launch of that campaign this fall. So be on the lookout. I really look forward to seeing all the reports and all that stuff.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much, Tyler, for joining us. I know you're probably going to head out right now, but thank you. Yes, please also read Undelivered. Reading is very important. And like I said, uneducated workers are easy to deceive. Please do rejoin us. We'll be plugging that when it comes up too. And President Greg, I see you got your hand raised.
I think that Tyler, and I brought you up because you called into the Valley Labor Report. You did an interview with them. You got on Sam Cedar's podcast. One of the things that we can't lose focus on, we have to do, because I think we do have some momentum back. It's not as grim as it was. I think that educating people on, there's two other callers to the Valley Labor Report in this room right now. Murphy and I called in the same day.
I called in to yell at another caller, and Murphy called in to talk about politics, I think. But we have, if more people are willing to do that, and it's uncomfortable the first couple times you do it. And Tyler, I'm sure you were uncomfortable the first time you were on Corey's podcast and with Sam Cedar. And we need to expand that way too, where we spread the message. This podcast, there's other ones. Everybody's gonna have a podcast. I even have a podcast now. Do you know what I mean? Like we have to do that. We can't just stop, because we do have some momentum right now. And if everybody watch what Dr. Patel said yesterday about how privatization would kill the post office and it's not necessary, and if we continue to spread that message, when I was installed as president last week, I said, this speech isn't only for the carriers out there, the retirees, it's also for the family members, because you guys vote too, and your friends vote, and and our customers vote. So if everybody's educated on this stuff, but we're not going to lose. We're gonna gain, and then we can get $30 an hour. So I think we can't lose that momentum of spreading that message like you did on Sam's podcast and Valley before, and we got to get on more. We got to get on other stuff. I'm just going to speak on as a president, like Capone is a local president. So I do this thing in my office, and I know not all presidents can do this. The big offices can't do this, but we've hired we have PTFs. So we've hired a lot of PTFs in the last year and a half. And I'm not there every day, and the day they walk in and they shadow, I go over there, I shake their hand, I introduce myself, I say, there's my rack, there's my office, text me, call me anytime. And they're like, some of them are like little, they're like, wait, who is this guy? What's going on? But a lot of them, like, really, I can tell, you can tell when someone appreciates something you do. And that's something that I think we're not taught to do as presidents. It's just something I took it upon myself. And I think more people need to do stuff like that, just from almost like on a national level. That's how you get people involved. They feel welcome. They're gonna show up to meetings, because I've noticed 2 people started, and we had a meeting that night, and I said, there's a meeting tonight if you want to show up, and they both showed up to the meeting, and they had no idea what was going on, but they came up to me after the meeting like, oh, that was pretty cool. Like I got pizza, I got free pizza. I was like, well, it wasn't free, you paid for it. But it's just getting them involved from that step. And I think that, and I'm glad John brought up, we have to build fighters. One of the things that's been driving me crazy lately about national and all this threats with the post office and the Trump threat and all this stuff is, well, we got our lawyers on it. Well, as I said at my meeting when this all happened, I said, that's great. It's great to have lawyers. But I was brought up, and I think Capone and other guys that were brought up around the Boston area, when you're punched in the face, you don't go, I'm going to go get my lawyer, right? You punch back. So that's where the fighting has to happen. And the punching back is up here, being more educated. If we educate all these people, if 100% of the NALC was educated on politics, on the contract, the managers would head for the hills. The letter carrier political fund would be through the roof. They wouldn't know what to do with the money. They'd have people running for office just to get money from us. But we don't have that right now. And I think things like this are a building block. And I think we all can learn from each other. I think national can learn from this. I think we can learn some things from national. I think the CLC can learn from the BFN. The BFN can learn from the CLC, and we all need to merge together as one. But like you guys are doing, it starts when they walk in that door and making them feel welcome. You got to stand for something, right? You have to stand for something, or you're going to fall for everything. And that's the problem in our union right now is people, if they're not fighting, then if they don't think there's anything to fight for, you're going to see people get out of the union. You're going to see people just not give a shit. And the not giving a shit attitude really has to stop. It's your job. We have to teach them to fight for their job. So we need more things like this, you guys are doing it in your own time. And I think you should be commended for that. You do the podcast on your own time. I don't see too many sponsors lined up to pay you guys. I don't think what's the big sponsor
We got MySpace recently to endorse us. So those of you, myspace.com/ the Next Generation Carrier podcast is gladly sponsoring us. So please, why wait? Snap into it. myspace.com/ the Next Generation Carrier podcast. Thank you.
But just one last thing, and I think that if it happens in my office, it's got to be happening in other places. And I think when regulars see a PTF or a CCA come in, they see it as, at least in my office, they see it as someone taking their overtime. That can't be the case, because I'm trying to explain to my people, if 15 people left tomorrow, retire tomorrow, which 15 probably can and might, and by the end of the year, the overtime will be back. I want them to, and I want other people to take these people in, because they're the future. Because what the people probably in this administration would love is if nobody wanted to work for the post office and say, we can't hire anybody. We gotta go private. You know what I mean? So you gotta everybody's should be encouraging these people to get involved and to help educate.
Yep. I think the big thing is also, it also starts, we're talking about the Amazon Sunday, but in general, it starts at your installation, where you are, and building that camaraderie. I think a lot of it too started from COVID. I know when we brought a lot of guys in from COVID, it was in, out, don't talk, 6 feet, blah, 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 blah. Now COVID's over. Obviously you can still catch whatever, the disease or whatnot, but all the 6 feet, all that, it's over. And it starts with building that camaraderie, getting to know each other, not only as workers, but as individuals and as people. If you can touch and reach out and talk to someone as a person and get to know them, that is half the battle. If you can do it in your own installation, then it'll be so much easier to go out to another place and talk to someone just on a human level. And that's it. It's just knowing that we're all human beings and we all want either A, a better paycheck, B, a better working environment, C, just general conditions for all postal employees as well. So I think Greg's completely right. It's time for the people in my geographic where I'm from. I'm 11 years in now, and I talk to all the people all the time. I've sent out numerous texts this week during the heat wave. Hey, you staying hydrated? How you feeling? It starts on that human level.
Can I just add something real quick? I'd be remiss if I didn't add this. You guys are talking about Sundays and not knowing your rights. I forget who brought it up. I know this is possible because text thread is easy. I have a text thread now. It might be easier for me with the 20-something PTFs in my office, but I tell them I don't want to get a call on Sunday that you got in an accident, but feel free to text me. And they do, trust me. And it's always, sorry, hate to bother you, but I'm like, you're not bothering me. What's up? And it's just anything, from this one got in an accident. I had to drive this. I started driving to work. They told me to stay home. I'm like, well, I'm going to get you paid for that because you left at a certain time. But it's up to people in my position and other stewards like Capone. And I know it's tougher in a bigger office, but it can be done from a steward level to set up a text thread with the Sunday CCAs or PTF. And it actually
WhatsApp is great for that. Yes,
WhatsApp is actually better because you have the 20 limit on a text, and now that I have 29 PTFs, it's tougher. But that is something I really wanted to add to that, and hopefully people listening in other parts of the country are like, oh, it's a good idea. I'll just keep starting a new thread, use WhatsApp with the PTF CCAs.
One thing that President Greg brought up too was about our lawyers. Lawyers are it's called the sword and shield method of activism, right? The lawyers are your shield. You do want to have lawyers. You do want to have them. They're important to be there. But the sword is us, the rank and file, the activists. We're the ones that are going to be out there we're the ones going to be having the rallies in the state capitals. We're the ones that, yes, it's good to contact your congressman and donate to the LCPF. Yeah, I give $20 a month. I do believe in that. But the activists have to start doing petitioning and then showing up at politicians' office who either are ignoring us or they're harming us. That needs, like, we need that sword in our union to do as well. We need to get out there and start doing it. And I think lawyers are not, like, that's what you hear. We got a lawyers on it. Okay, that's half the battle. You know, you need the other part. You know, you're gonna play defense the whole time. And what Greg said too is right. That uneducated workers are very easy to deceive. You will get a lot of strong anti-union people. Oh, fuck the union. They didn't do anything for me. But if you start educating them on what we could be doing, what the fight should be about, you know, that's what people want. We need to educate these people. You know, how are we going to, you know, what are we going to do to get rid of our, you know, we're getting robbed at gunpoint of our arrow keys. Do you know there's a bill right now in Congress, HR, I think, oh God, 1522, you know, to phase out arrow keys. We have to reach out to our politicians to fund it. Like, these are things we want to educate them on because it's important to do that. Because if they don't, then someone else is going to tell them, and management's going to do bad stuff. Maybe have the NALC start a real organizing department instead of only sending people to the academy to make them sign up and call that organizing would be a start. That's it. I mean, unfortunately, there's no activism. There's no organization within the national leadership of our union. You know, they should be thinking of Amazon Sundays. They should be sending people down. They should be sending union reps. They have, and like I think John brought up, they have a war chest with a lot of money. They could have an organizing department down there to be doing it, but there is no, like, organizing as far as they think it's signing up to pay union dues on your first day and signing up to do LCP up. And then they clap, then they go, we're done. We've done our job. So I do think that, like I said, there needs to be internal organizing. It doesn't, we, the rank and file, are going to have to organize it. And this is our first attempt to do it as a reform caucus. You know, if there's any union presidents and big locals, or if you want to do it on your own, you can have at it, you know, that's fine. But there's just a lot of people who, and I think a lot of higher ups in the union that think they want to get paid to do it. You know, I've gotten some pushback saying, well, I'm not doing it for free, was something basically told to me by someone. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. You know, the labor movement is not going to survive if everyone thinks they're going to get a paid job out of it. It's going to be us volunteering our time doing it. And we've gotten this far as well. So